Hey everybody, tonight we're debating flat Earth versus globe Earth, and we are starting right now with our globe Earth presentation from MCToon on the left side of your screen. Thanks so much for being here, MCToon. The floor is all yours.
Right. Thank you very much, James. Well, I have a screen to share. I just hit that right now so you can do what you do with that so people can see it. On a flat surface, a triangle has 180 degrees. On a surface that is spherical, a triangle has more than 180 degrees. It must have more than 180 degrees. You're looking right here on Wolfram.com has some description about a spherical triangle. So these things have been done. I have on my website at mctoon.net/SE a whole bunch of information about spherical excess, where it shows all these different triangles that they measured. And here is the actual raw data. If you look here at any one of these particular triangles, number one, we'll just start right there. If you look over in that column to the right that I've highlighted in blue, you can see the column that says spherical excess. And that particular triangle has an excess of 57 arc seconds, 57 arc seconds, which is just under 1 arc minute, which is about 1/60th of a degree. These particular measurements are accurate to 3 digits behind the decimal point. The trig, and we can do some trig on that, right? So if you see right here, solving for R, a mathematical proof by the good Dr. Clive Wells. If you want to look at that, there you go, a little taste of some of the math proof he did there. We've found that the radius of all these is very much in line with each other. In fact, when you take all the averages of these, you get 6,375 kilometers for the radius of the Earth. This is not an assumption. This is not the number that this particular survey claimed. This is purely by analyzing the measured triangles that they did in this particular survey. That confirms the shape of the thing we live on is a sphere.
We will kick it over to Ryan for his opening statement. Ryan, thanks so much for being here with us. It's a true pleasure to have you. The floor is all yours.
When it comes to the research I've been doing for the past 5 years or so, I've found it's best to use the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. When it comes to looking at observable phenomenon, observable, measurable distances, heights, elevations, basically it comes down to, for me, things that are globe killers for me are we see too far, water doesn't curve, ships don't disappear over the horizon, the same old things. I don't call myself a flat earther so much as I prefer the term globe skeptic. I don't profess to have a model of anything. I am questioning the model I was presented. As I've examined the globe model, there are so many different versions of it. There isn't one consistent model that demonstrates any of the claims of globe math. So when it comes to math, again, I kind of fall back on the Tesla quote, which I'm going to butcher, I'm sure, which basically says that these days science and math has gone so far down its own rabbit hole that we just build equation upon equation upon equation until we get lost in the meaning of it and has no relevance to physical reality anymore. So I'm not often swayed by fancy math without photographic evidence. My personal favorite is, of course, long distance viewing over flat water. The Nat Geo experiment that they did with everyone was a complete farce. This is a terrible opening statement.
You got it. Thank you very much, Ryan. And with that, we'll jump into open conversation. Gentlemen, thanks so much. The floor is all yours for open dialogue.
You made a few claims, but didn't have any support for it. How about you said we see too far? Could you pull up a see too far example?
On my computer?
Somewhere, somehow, if you're going to say we see too far.
Sure, like the basic Chicago skyline from 58 miles away on a clear day with appropriate humidity.
I need to see the latitude, longitude of where the picture was taken, as well as the elevation.
Are you not familiar with the Chicago skyline picture I'm talking about?
I am. I've done the math. It's no problem with the math. So
really, 58
I don't think
miles.
My guess is you've not done the math.
Oh, I've done the math. Like I said, I'm just I don't have a lot of stuff stuff with me, so I'm just shooting from pure memory.
How about this? How about we get the distance? I'll give you the predicted globe amount of obstruction of the bottom, and you give the predicted flat Earth obstruction of the bottom, and then we'll compare to see which is more accurate.
For example, go ahead with an example. Well, I think obstruction is a moot point because it happens on a flat model and a globe model.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So if it works, then you tell us how you plug it into the flat Earth bottom up obstruction calculator to find out how much, according to the flat Earth model that you said, how much of it should be obstructed.
Well, again, I don't want to lean on globe Earth model term. If the globe model is true, then there shouldn't be any reasonable objection to disproving claims of it, such as ships on the horizon, distance over flat water over long distances. If the globe model says that it should definitely happen at, 8 inches per mile squared,
Absolutely
then
wrong math.
Whether the math is wrong or not, if you can do that same experiment using any other method, then it doesn't matter how far you can see on a flat world. By having two different ways to see that far or prove those distances, then it makes the surface irrelevant.
It seems to me that you do not want to provide a mechanism to predict or somehow describe the amount that should be hidden over a flat surface. It should be pretty easy. You should just be able to say, oh, here's how we know how much should be hidden from 58 miles on flat Earth. Flat Earth says we should, far as I know, since there's nothing obstructing it, something above a flat surface can't obstruct something above a flat surface, according to all the physics I know. But you may disagree, so then you could provide the physics and the way to predict the amount hidden over flat surface, then we can just compare, right? There's two models, we have two hypotheses. Let's test both.
But we don't have two models. We have a globe model that claims to be a model, and I am a globe skeptic challenging that model. Oh, and so if I see measurements happen to someone else might have, but the globe should be the only one able to do it.
All you need to do is just find the example that you think is the one that disproves the globe, and then we'll do it. We'll test it.
If there was one example that disproved the globe, the debate would be over.
I know there's never been one.
I could hold up like memes on my phone, but that doesn't seem productive.
It seems to me that you've never actually done the math, because you said 8 inches per mile squared minus the elevation, which is absolutely the wrong way to do it. How do you think is the correct way to use to predict the amount hidden on the globe?
Well, the formula that the globe provides is 8 inches per mile squared.
Wrong.
No.
You tell me, you can't tell me the amount hidden over a flat surface. So you lose coming out right away. And you're telling me that I'm not right about my own model.
Okay.
There's always refraction involved, especially over low elevation.
Refraction is an assumed effect anyway.
Since the Josh Nowicki photograph of the Chicago skyline doesn't have any measured lapse rate, we don't know the actual coefficient of refraction. So we only can guess, and we can look at MCToon.net/refraction to look at some of the other things that have been measured, look at the same conditions, time of day and temperature of water, temperature of air, and you can get a range. Now, when you do that, all of the Joshua Nowicki photographs completely match.
So from 58 miles away, for that to work, you want to be able to see the pebbles on the pavement at ground level.
No, you should see for flat Earth, because there's nothing obstructing it. And no flat earther has ever presented an actual physics explanation for why something would be obstructed when there's nothing in the way. You should see Lakeshore Drive right there. It's not on the beach.
With angular reduction taken into account, from 58 miles away, you should be able to see the ground, Lakeshore Drive.
You should see. Yeah, well, they're taken at night, so you should see the lights from the cars, right?
No,
if you said
disappear from the bottom up, no matter what.
Why does that happen if there's nothing in the way?
Because that's how angular resolution works.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Angular resolution.
Present how that works.
The only thing I could present is the basic intro to art courses I took in high school.
Sorry, this is physics, not art.
Still basic perspective. Everything comes to a focal point along the horizon. Human eye can only resolve to 0.02 degrees.
Resolve detail, but the light is still there. It doesn't make it invisible. It makes that the detail is not resolvable. I'm assuming that you can see 58 miles. Not infinite, 58 miles. If you can see the skyscraper, the top of the skyscraper,
Yeah.
which is farther away from you
Exactly.
than the bottom of the skyscraper, then you should absolutely see the bottom of the skyscraper because there's nothing blocking your view.
There is things blocking your view. The perspective is blocking your view.
Present the physics for how perspective makes things disappear.
For example, if I go to Home Depot and set up a stack of 4 bricks at the opposite end of the building, walk all the way across, 400 yards away, if that 100 yards away, and drop my camera all the way to ground level, the bottom bricks on that stack will disappear from view. You can zoom in.
We'll present this. Go ahead. I don't believe you.
Well, like I said, I don't have anything.
So then don't make claims that you can't support.
I'm just trying to use common sense.
Common sense says nothing's in the way, nothing will be obstructed.
Common sense says that things disappear from the bottom up no matter what.
Common sense doesn't say that at all.
Well,
there's nothing in the way. So there's no physics to support your claim.
I'm not going to be presenting physics tonight because I just came to have a regular debate using common sense because that's how easy it is to dismantle the globe.
Where Joshua Nowicki took the picture was not at sea level. It was 108 feet from the top of the dune, right? So 180 feet, sorry. So it is not from the water level. So get your details right before you start talking about stuff. It seems like you are convinced by lack of detail and lack of critical thinking on how to actually analyze stuff, because you talked about 8 inches per mile squared. If you've been in this for 5 years, you've not been paying attention because that's the wrong formula.
Based on the alleged circumference of the ball, 8 inches per mile squared measures arcs, which for the purposes of long distance viewing for 100 miles or less, it is definitely acceptable to use 8 inches per mile squared for distances like we're talking about with Chicago.
And how do you take into account, using that formula, where do you plug in the observer height? Exactly. It's not in the formula. The formula I gave you has the observer height.
I know. And
okay, so stop using that. It's a lie.
The radius is based on assumptions, though.
No. No. You didn't pay attention to what I said. None of my presentation had any assumptions about the shape of the Earth.
No,
okay?
they were just kind of
give you about 2 minutes to respond, Ryan.
The problem is that the radius that the model predicts is itself an assumption based on distance to Venus and distance to Sun with the angles multiplied to each other, but both distances are assumed. So the question is, how do you initially come up with the radius for the Earth?
Well, I'm sharing it again since you didn't pay attention. I assume nothing at all. These triangles, these spherical triangles, were measured. They were more than 180 degrees, every single one of them. That absolutely defeats the possibility that the surface of the Earth could be flat. No question about it, because they're not 180 degrees. Every one of them is more than 180 degrees. This spreadsheet here, assuming nothing, I put the 3 sides of the triangle in, the 3 angles of the triangle into the formula. To get the radius, it outputs the radius. It does not assume the radius, it outputs the radius. The radius was calculated based on the measurement. If you're going to address this evidence, I would love that, and not to deflect to some other evidence.
So when we're measuring to test for flatness, we have to do it at ground level and taking observer's height. But when they're measuring 60 miles across...
They're measuring something else.
Sorry?
They're measuring something other than what you were trying to measure. They're measuring a triangle, a horizontal
But they're
triangle.
still made up of 3 straight lines, right? Like connecting each other. Right. So what is obstructing their view? If nothing is obstructing these things from seeing each other, that itself tells you that they can see too far.
No, none of them are seeing too far. Please address the actual evidence. They're on mountaintops or hilltops or on a tall structure that they built. There's nothing in the way.
I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. It seems like such secular logic.
Maybe you should actually do some research on your own.
Yeah.
These things have been done for centuries.
Why
didn't you look into the thousands of times that the Earth has been measured by surveyors?
Again, it's the globe that has things to prove. I don't know if we want to spend this whole debate talking about the long distance. I've definitely painted myself into a corner here. So I don't know what to tell you. I'll tell you. I'm not a physics expert. That's the problem with the globe in general, I guess, is that there's just too much room for doubt. I'm a common sense guy. Fancy numbers, fancy math. This is how people obscure truths or get confused and convince themselves of things that are not real. Because all I have is stories, and all I have is my observations. I guess that's the only thing that you brought up as proof. And so we don't.
I limited it to one topic. You want 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
We are.
There's no such thing as 100% accuracy.
If we're
right?
on a,
No. Let me talk right now.
Sure.
This ruler is not 100% accurate, right? It goes down to the millimeter. When you measure using this ruler, you are plus and minus 1/2 of a millimeter at least in your margin of error. Every measurement has a margin of error. You're never.
But if it was plus or minus an inch, then you'd have a
hold
real
on.
problem.
You're never 100% in any measurement ever. So if you're expecting 100%, you say, oh, it's not 100%. That's because you don't understand how to measure things. You don't understand how to actually do to control the conflating variables, right? I don't care that you're like, oh, it's hard for me to figure out, right? That's science. That's being precise about what you do. You do need to take these into account. And if you don't like it, I don't care. It just shows that you're not interested in finding out the truth. You're only interested in confirming your bias.
I haven't had any time to look into any of your claims that you've made today. So,
but you've been at this for 5 years and you're still using the wrong formula. You're not paying attention.
We're claiming that this is the thing that we live on. We should definitely know 100% or pretty darn close to it. And we don't.
Yet you can't provide one thing.
You keep coming back to that, don't you?
You're making claims and you have no evidence. I made a claim. I presented the evidence.
You presented it.
You didn't even show up to the race.
Yeah, I told you at the beginning I didn't show up to the race. I showed up at the last second with no preparation. And we were going to have a discussion about common sense.
But I do want to ask, as people usually get a kick out of the question, so I'll toss it to you guys. The question of, is there a good reason to believe that there would be kind of this grand world cover-up such that all the governments were in on it in terms of covering up the flat Earth and instead putting forth this idea that it's a globe Earth? That's something that's really fascinating. People get a kick out of it. And so to hear your guys' thoughts on that question, or maybe you don't even think it's a good question, that's up to you. But what are your guys' thoughts on it?
Anyone who doesn't think that people with money and power conspire with each other at their own level to maintain control over their own money and power is just willfully ignorant. That's just how things are.
MCToon, are you persuaded? You look like you're maybe going to flip on this.
That doesn't do much. I mean, people often say it's to hide land, it's to hide the creator, it's to whatever. But just in general saying we want to not let some people know some critical fact about things doesn't really it isn't very convincing as to why they would want to do that. Why wouldn't they lie about something else? Well, why lying about something that doesn't matter if it doesn't matter? The number of people that have to be in on it is ridiculously huge. Because all of the people that measured these spherical triangles have to be in on it, because spherical triangles are impossible on a flat surface. So every surveyor that did this participated in every survey that outputted spherical triangles, which is every big survey, every primary triangulation of any country or surface of the world, has all of the people that are involved in it have to be hiding something somehow, because they would see the spherical triangles, or they would see the not spherical. Hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done talking. All right. They would see, oh, these triangles add to 180 degrees, but we need to somehow fake them adding to more than 180 degrees. And then, because all of the other measurements in this survey would be affected by that, we need to include all of that in this complicated math thing.
So
how were they in on it? Explain how somebody measuring with a theodolite the angle between 2 points.
Sure.
And the angle between 2 points, and the angle between 2 points coming up to 180 degrees, and then saying, oh, I was expecting more, therefore I will do something.
No, it's planar that's done at 100 miles or greater, and geodetic that's done at 100 miles or less. Am I getting that correct?
You're backwards on that. Here's the deal.
So
I don't want to embarrass you.
Fact is that planar surveyors are taught to treat the Earth as a flat surface for the first 100 miles.
Yeah,
that's my point.
And what does it say in the next sentence about planar surveyors? It says they can't do bigger ones because the spherical nature of the Earth introduces too much error into their measurements. So I guess this is just your deflection to try to not address that they actually measured triangles that were more than 180 degrees. There's no necessity for a layperson to understand how to measure the shape of the Earth for the shape of the Earth to be properly measured, right? If you don't understand it, that doesn't make it flat. That makes it that you don't understand.
Cosines, trigonometry, and physics are not my thing. I'm a regular guy.
Regular guys understand physics. That's no defense. That's no defense, yeah. Right? If you're going to be claiming certain things, you need to be able to actually explore them, right? Now, I added this particular line across it. On the left side, we can see it's right next to the horizon. On the right side, it's right next to the horizon. In the middle, there's a gap between the line and the horizon. On my website,
how do we complete that circle?
That's not how it works. So it seems you misunderstand
how that curvature. Where does the curvature in that image lead to then?
I don't understand how.
I'm asking you to finish that curve. Like, where does that go? It must keep going down. You're like, no, it would actually.
That's not how it works.
That's how it has to work.
No.
It has to work that way.
Again, you already explained to us that you don't understand geometry.
Right. So you move the camera over, and the curve that was on the edge should now be in the middle, and the curve should keep going down.
Oh my gosh.
Neil deGrasse Tyson says.
Are you going to straw man me? Is Neil deGrasse Tyson here?
Well, let's hear a chance to respond.
Neil deGrasse Tyson says.
Oh, he's not here. Okay.
All right.
Okay,
just to hear a response.
If he's here, you could address him.
If the Earth were flat, gravity would cause things to become lighter as they move from the center out toward its edge. Obviously, this is not so.
If you believed in gravity, then yeah, if you took gravity from a globe model and brought it over to a flat Earth, yeah, you'd run into problems because you're mixing things that don't mix, and gravity is a theory. It's never been proven.
Decepticons Forever said, "What shape are the other celestial bodies, Ryan?"
I don't know what they are, and I don't believe anyone who's told me what they think they are. They're spherical, so we must be spherical. It doesn't make any sense to me now.
Polaris decreases 1 degree in altitude with every 111 kilometers that you go south. This is necessary and sufficient for a globe. Prove it wrong and you win.
Polaris would move down on the horizon on a flat Earth as well, or on a flat plane as well as you moved away from northern center. And as far as it moving down at the measurements that he said as you move away from the North Pole, again, it's one of those things that works on both models. The problem with Polaris is that with all of the expected movements, we have at least 3 different movements of the Earth: rotating, spinning, and orbiting. And yet the stars never experience any measurable parallax, and Polaris is always in a fixed point that can be viewed night after night, year after year, century after century, observer after observer.
MCToon.net/Polaris has 150 years of measurements of the movement of Polaris, number one. Number two, yes, you would see Polaris decrease in angular elevation on a flat surface, but it would decrease in a tangent function. It would be an asymptote. It would never, it would not do a linear decrease in size in angular elevation as we measure.
Next up, this one coming in from Holy Smalls says, can either one of the debaters define or describe electromagnetic wake?
It doesn't exist.
Tim Pryor says, so common sense tells you that you're smarter than billions of people, including all of science or scientists, and only you and a small percent have figured this out, Ryan.
Well, smarter people than me must have figured this out, so who am I to question them? It's a fallacy to begin with.
This one coming in from Mike Billar says, MCToon, if the Earth is a dodecahedron or whatever.
Dodecahedron?
Thank you so much. They said, if it is that, then how do you explain a Borg cube? Boom, Mike Uppity.
I've got the Cube Earth shirt here going, so I'm all in with the Borg Cube Earth. Let's go.
That's hot. Thank you very much. And
that's hot.
That's right. A bubblegum gun says, if Earth isn't flat, why is my grill flat? Hashtag roasted. Sparky NJ says, MCToon, did you take dimensity into account for your evidence?
Dimensity is a word I made up this week on accident. And no, I did not take dimensity into account. It's not something I typically do, but I will definitely try to take it into account.
I like it.
I accidentally merged density and demented.
Dimensity, twin word for juicy. Who's the absolute hottie in the lower left corner?
Oh, you paid somebody to say that.
I will pay you back,
Oh my
Mike. Thank
gosh.
you, buddy. I appreciate that. Keep them coming, and I'll just keep paying you. Thank you, MCToon and Ryan. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks for having me, and we'll see you next time.